Yes! Oh, baby, yes! You know what that sound means. Time for In the Paddock F1, Greeny and the Cheese, episode 100. That's one followed by 2 zeros. How about that? Didn't think we'd ever make it that far. And we are down under for round 3 of the 2024 F1 season for the 38th time. It's the Australian Grand Prix. A record 452,000 people headed to Melbourne, made the pilgrimage for the F1 race this weekend. That is a record for the most attendance of a sporting event in Melbourne, which is the sporting capital of Australia. Did you know that, Michael?
I did not, but I do now, so...
Australia, the land of kangaroos, giant bugs, and some say the best cup of joe in the world. It's ranked number 1, apparently.
Really?
Ranked number 1 to get the best cup of joe you can get is in Australia, apparently. But this ain't no travel show. This is an F1 show. We're racing the Albert Park circuit. 3.28 miles, 14 corners, 4, count on 1, 2, 3, 4 DRS zones to help with that passing. You give it the full beans for 70% of your lap. And oh baby, ring those bells in Maranello, boys and girls. Red Bull gets its first mechanical failure in 2 years. Ends that streak because Max is out in lap 5 with that rear brake fire. Carlos Sainz takes the victory, coming back after the appendectomy 2 weeks ago. Leclerc takes second for that Ferrari 1-2. Oh, it must have been written in the books to have the 100th episode of In the Paddock F1 and a Ferrari 1-2. Oh, it must have been written. We're caffeinated, we're medicated, Grinny. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, as we have to spin around the globe here to get over to Australia. It took the other side of the world to get Ferrari 1-2, but does it matter? Does it matter? As soon as Max's mechanical failure hit, and mechanical failures happen, we talked about it in our preseason episode at length this year, that the odds of Max not having a mechanical failure, 43 straight races without a DNF for Max Verstappen. 43 straight races, not for Red Bull, as you mentioned, but for Max Verstappen. Perez has had a DNF since then, hasn't he?
Not for mechanical reasons.
Not for mechanical. So, wow.
The last mechanical for Red Bull, mechanical failure, was actually Melbourne, 2022, sir.
Wow.
So 2 years.
How about them, Apple? 2 years?
2 years.
Listen. You got to give it up. All good things come to an end, as does Max's streak as well. 43 straight races without a DNF. How about them apples? Really unbelievable. But the weekend goes to Ferrari and Carlos Sainz. The man potentially wouldn't even be able to race this weekend. Earlier in the week, Ollie Bearman was still on the board at 8,000 plus 8,000 to win the race. And there's still 3 Ferrari drivers in the top 10 point standings. We are living on Arrakis right now because it does feel like another planet. The fact that Max Verstappen did not finish the race. I believe in my heart that Japan and China and the following races will tell a very different story.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. F1 needed this.
F1 needed this badly.
They needed this badly. They needed it. They need to keep seeing Max, just because then viewership's gonna just bomb out. You know it. F1 needed this bad. They needed somebody else to win. I mean, you could see it in the crowd when Sainz took the lead and the entire place just erupted, like coming down out of the final corner, out of that final corner, and the crowd was just going bananas, no matter what color they were wearing. And a lot of them were wearing orange, of course, for Oscar Piastri. But they were all standing up cheering when they saw Carlos Sainz in the lead of the race coming out of that final corner. So F1 needed this bad. Carlos Sainz is a little bit of a streak killer for Max Verstappen, isn't he? He was going for 11 last year when Carlos won in Singapore, and he was going for 10 wins in a row today. when Carlos, ends up with the win here and ends the streak again. So, bit of a Max streak killer is Carlos. And did Ferrari make the wrong decision? Maybe they should have signed the other guy.
That's going to be.
I mean, the man is driving angry, and more power to him. But if these performances keep going, and he keeps finishing in front of Leclerc, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Charles Leclerc. A lot of pressure on Charles Leclerc. I mean, he even said it wasn't good enough, so he better kick himself in the pants and get it going, because he's supposed to be the number one driver. I mean, Carlos's 2 starts, he's got a win and a third. So he could have even been, if he raced in Saudi Arabia, maybe Leclerc doesn't even have a podium yet this year. Maybe it's Carlos. So that's a big thing. Let me go on with a couple of the things I saw. Perez just not good enough. Not good enough.
Absolutely not.
You're in that car and
all day. All weekend.
All day.
He
all weekend,
snuck
really.
in,
yeah.
like Q3, he snuck in that last lap that put him second, but only for a moment until Carlos took it.
Yeah.
And then, so he was on front row for about 5 seconds. And then to show up today, and really, I think, and the odds makers as well, thought Sergio was going to be on podium 5th? That is... To me, that's the most shocking thing this weekend, because I think everyone had issues all weekend from P1, 2, 3 and qualifying. I think Ferrari actually seemed to have the most reliable car all weekend until like the end of Q3 when Leclerc had those issues and ended up on the third row, second row to start. But damn, man, Sergio Perez, I know the chatter has gone down a little bit after the first 2 races, but the volume is going to get turned up. This is not a good week to not have a race next weekend for Red Bull with everything going on. There's a lot of time off. There's a lot of time off. Doing everything with Christian Horner, now with Max, with...
Oh, there's lots of things going on. There's, you got Christian Horner. Is he going to still have a job? You got Max Verstappen. Is he going to leave the team? With the power struggle going on there. So if Horner stays, Marco's probably out. So then Max is definitely, adios amigos. You got the just continued rumor daily on his Adrian Newey leaving. Is other members of the Aero team and the technical team going to leave as well? Because everything going on with Horner. So it's madness. They needed like 3 races in a row just to quiet some of that chatter down. I mean, and then you're going to throw in mechanical when the right rear brake locks or doesn't, fully disengage from the start of the race. I mean, people are going to start saying, is all the off-track stuff finally getting in to the garage area now? And somebody made a mistake not checking something right. I mean, that's going to be talked about.
There's a lot.
I mean, it's going to be talked about.
We went from completely boring potential season here before spring started to an absolute wealth of news coming over the next 2 weeks. A lot of second guessing already about Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. A ton of
I don't. Lewis's performances, I don't even worry about that whatsoever right now. Leading with that, because that car is not good. That car is not good.
And now you have a little more insight on why he made that move.
I mean, Toto Wolff even came
sense.
out and said. Toto Wolff even came out and said, this car is basically rubbish. We have zero chance against Red Bull. 0. And to be honest, they got no chance against Ferrari. Because Ferrari's pace this weekend was very, very much improved. And the talk I've heard coming out of Maranello is the upgrades they are apparently bringing. I think they're bringing them to the first big upgrade is going to be at Imola. And from their testing and such, they say they will be up there with Red Bull, with what they have coming. The Ferraris were quick all weekend. They had also had great race pace. I don't know if you watched FP2 or not, but they were pretty solid on race pace with Red Bull. Maybe
every practice,
Australia.
every practice.
I mean, maybe this track doesn't set up well for Red Bull, and things change. But I know F1's hoping that's not the case, and they hope Ferrari comes because you need a challenge. Having another season of just one team dominating is definitely not going to help at all.
Yeah,
McLaren has definitely established himself as the third best team by far at this point, as well, with the performances that they've thrown in, especially today.
Yeah, 2 quick points before we end this segment and go into. We got Greenie Bucks. Listen, we got winners and losers. Someone's going to slap themselves. There's a lot of slaps to go around.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get apparently.
I'm giving out many.
Apparently, I wish I had 2 more hands. Give these teams more thumbs down. But 2 things. First of all, it's like Red Bull, and then there's a big distance between Ferrari and Red Bull at this moment. I don't care what happened this weekend. And then between Ferrari and everyone else is an equal gap almost between Red Bull and Ferrari, and then Ferrari and McLaren, and maybe McLaren to Mercedes. So we're moving in that direction where we're layering up, right? It looks like Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes. I'm sorry, McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. Bringing up the 5th for sure. Haas, which we have not mentioned, double points for Haas. Wow, that was took a lot of luck. And a lot of mechanical failure.
I mean, to be honest, right now Haas looks like the best of the mid pack.
They do.
I mean, they've been on the edge of the points most of these races, even more so than Visa RB.
Same thing last year, though.
Yep, same thing last year.
Dead last. But the other point I wanted to make is this: I really feel this is the first weekend for Ferrari in as long time that they're really from P1 to the end of the race. They looked really solid. Outside of some issues, like we said, with Charles Leclerc and Q3 towards the very end. I didn't see many issues as far as the mechanical side. It was very, very interesting. And I think Lewis Hamilton saw something there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Saw something there in Ferrari that we didn't see. Obviously, we wouldn't see. And now I think it's starting to bleed out the reality that Lewis saw between Mercedes and they're going backwards and Ferrari going forwards. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Ferrari had strategy today. How about that? I mean, they went with the undercut with Norris to get Leclerc to second, which he didn't relinquish, which they would have botched that last year, or the last couple of years for sure. Carlos has had a great drive out there. Once you're out in front, when the car is out in front in clean air, it looks brilliant. It looks up there with Red Bull, with stability-wise and whatnot, but in traffic, not so much. I mean, or maybe it's just Charles Leclerc just has trouble passing people.
Dirty air,
and the dirty air versus, Carlos, who was right there with Max. So, but I don't know, but it's a huge weekend for our huge boost to the team. Maybe they can take this and bring a fight to Red Bull, which is what we all want to see, because I think I could say it for just about most F1 fans, unless you are a Red Bull fan. We're kind of sick of it. We want to see, some tussles up the front. We don't want the tussles at the mid pack. Like, how much of that race where they were, going to the mid pack to watch battles? There's no battles at the front. You want to see some battles at the front.
You want to see battles at the front. This is what racing's all about. That's what racing's all about. And Formula One does a good job broadcast-wise to kind of make the mid-pack interesting as they can, because they have no product up front. They have absolutely no product up front. So when you have no product up front, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to make the midfield interesting. We don't want midfield interesting. I love Haas. I couldn't give a shit about watching Haas with 3 laps to go. I shouldn't be watching Haas. You should be watching the front of the field, and that's That's what Formula One's missing, and they need it back badly. And today, I think, was the first step, hopefully, forward in the right direction.